Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. Got a special episode for you guys today. It's myself, Adam Emmert, and our esteemed co-host, Phil Leidick. He had a great idea last year to do a show revolving around some of the first-year players going into their second year. Are they going to slump? Are they going to jump? Or are you maybe a little stumped about it? We went into it last year, and I know, Phil, you went back, and you're holding us accountable. You listened to what we said last year, and how'd we do, man?
Well, we did well in a couple of ways, Adam. You might remember this show last year was so popular. Not only did people watch it quite a bit on the YouTube, like big time shows copied the exact same title for an idea within a few days later. So we kind of wonder if it was even popular with them. I don't know. There was another show that maybe doesn't get quite as many hits as us that did it, but there was an actual big broadcast radio show in Seattle that did the very same segment like a week after. And we were curious, people like this sophomore slump jump idea. That's how I felt about it. I don't know about you, Adam.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought it was a great concept. I'm looking forward to doing it again this year. Well, maybe I'm not looking forward to it. How did I do last year? Did I fail miserably or did I do okay?
Well, I went back and watched it, and I'll give you just a quick recap of your takes. We start at the end. So we started with Derick, and you said jump in special teams, not on offense. And that was close. I mean, you said he wouldn't really get that much of a shot on offense. So you were pretty well nailed that one. Jaxon Smith, you thought he was going to have a big jump, and he had a big jump to the somewhere else, not on the team. So that was a jump, just not the one. Reek Wolin, you said he would have a statistical slump, but you were ultimately stumped on how he would do. You did think that as long as he was a good lockdown guy, you said, I'll be fine. I don't care about the stats. Just be a guy that they avoid or holds down his side of the field. So I don't know how to rate you on that one. Kobe, we both agreed would kind of slump, and I think we were right about that one. Abe Lucas, you said would have the biggest jump of all, and it was possible if his knee was jumpable, but he had issues jumping because of some leg power. So we'll give you incomplete on that one. Ken Walker, you said was going to have a massive jump, was going to get a lot more carries this year. And of course, Shane Waldron let you down there. So if he had, maybe we could have got, you were hoping for 1,300 yards you expected. Boye, you were stumped. But you did say he's more likely to jump, and he definitely did. And so what you decided to, when I had you nailed down your prediction, you were right about that one. And Charles Cross said he'd make a jump, but we won't really notice. And your goal was we'd notice him less than in his rookie season because he would make less mistakes. So I don't know how you would rate yourself overall, Adam.
I would say that Cross was a hit. Obviously, the rest of it, for the most part, not so much. So when you're listening to these prognostications on this show today, if you want to know what's going to happen, just take everything that I say, do the reverse of it, and you'll probably be there. So I think it's still a valuable exercise, and it'll be fun to go through this year because, man, Phil, new coaches, new schemes, all that stuff, and then a draft class from 23 that was, highly heralded with some big time picks. And I think this is going to be extra fun to go through these guys.
Yeah, I don't think you did that poorly. The one thing is you thought we might have a top 3, top 5 offense. And I think that might have been possible if we weren't 32nd in total drives because of our defense being so poor and pathetic. And that was just because you said Abe and Charles were going to make such big leaps that the whole rest of the offense would take off. And I think there was every reason to expect that. It was just kind of fun to hear how you and I thought the season was going to go a year ago. And we weren't totally wrong. We were just a little bit disappointed, I would say.
Yeah, I was definitely disappointed in the lack of commitment to the run game offensively. Obviously, Abe's knee, didn't see that completely coming. I knew that there were some issues there, but from the way that everybody had talked, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. So that kind of blew me up on a few things. And then, obviously the defensive coaching, whether that's on Pete Carroll or Clint Hurts or whoever you want to put it on, didn't really help with a lot of the defensive players there as well. So, it's maybe a little misjudgment via our coaching staff last year. Mm-hmm. This year, I feel like coming into it, judging this coaching staff and trying to figure out where it's going to go is even a bigger mystery.
Yeah, I've got high hopes for the defensive coaches getting us more drives and more plays on offense this year. But let's start Adam, we'll go right as we did last year. We'll go to pick 237, Kenny McIntosh. He didn't get any regular season snaps. You got to see him in the preseason scrimmage in person. What do you think Kenny's going to do this year? Slump, jump, or are you stumped about him, Adam?
Yeah, so I did see him last year in the mock game, and from all reports leading up to the mock game, he had played very well in practice, and he was looking good in the mock game before his injury. So a guy who's very versatile, catches the ball out of the backfield quite a bit. So with that in mind, I feel like that skill set could fit with the Grub offense here going forward, and having him be kind of the last chance Charlie check down type of guy. Now, he's obviously got K9 in front of him and also Charbonnet, who I think they can both catch the ball just fine too. So I think his skill set fits. Unfortunately, I do think he's behind two guys that offer a little bit more in their own unique ways. So I guess I'll say stumped, because I feel like it's going to be a lot about the same. Like, just not going to see a lot of them. You know, the little bit that we do see, maybe it's exciting, but I do feel like K9 and Charbonnet are more talented at the end of the day.
Okay, I'll throw mine in. And I would have asked you this question, but you said you wanted me to throw mine in. So I like what you said. The reason I'm going to go with jump is because two running backs. What are the odds of both running backs playing 17 games this season, Adam? Are they really good?
Yeah, I mean, what, they'd only each have to play, let's say, I don't know, 8 games apiece, and then we're okay, right? Because then you can kind of just go back and forth, just as long as they're not injured at the same time. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But you're right. If one of them's down, then maybe Kenny McIntosh is the backup and gets a little more love. Also, something I was just thinking about, with his ability to run with the football, it seems as if that maybe more teams are going to look more at a guy like a running back in kick returns this year with the new rule changes and everything. Maybe he gets an opportunity there.
That's a cool idea as well. And we're speaking of special teams, we're going to go right over to Derick Reed, who played 10 games last year, 157 special team snaps, Adam. He had 11 tackles in special teams. I mean, this guy was a terror until he tore something. What do you think about Derick Reed as a special team star? Is he going to slump, jump, or are you stumped about him?
I'll give him a jump, another year of playing, special teams and all that. More opportunities to make plays on ball carriers in the kick return game, because there's going to be, in theory, less touchbacks and that sort of thing. So let's give him a little bit of a jump. I think he plays with the type of attitude that you need for special teams, and a guy that I enjoy watching a lot. What about you, Phil? How do you see things going for the angry little elf this year?
I hate to say all jumps, because I think we kind of leaned that way on last year's show, and it's hard not to because you're a fan, but I feel confident if he is healthy, he's going to be a difference maker and an emotional leader and a playmaker on special teams. So to me, that's a jump. Just comes down to health for him. I'm probably super confident he'll do his job if he's not injured. Next up, Oluwatimi. He had a lot of predictions for how he would go as a rookie with all the awards that he had in college, and yet he got one start. He got to play spots in a lot of places, but he got a start. How do you feel about him as a slump, jump, or stump his sophomore year, Adam?
I feel like whether it's a jump or a slump or however you look at it, the criteria is a little different for each and every player, right? Like, what is a jump for Derick Reed? What is a jump for Olu? And to me, for Olu, it's just more starting. And started one game this last year. I think he could end up starting a crap ton of games for the Seahawks this year. In fact, I think he's probably going to win the job out of camp. That'd be my guess. So just on that basis, I'm saying jump for Oluwatimi.
You like him more than Nick Harris, Adam?
Yeah. But I'm biased.
Okay.
I mean, Olu's been a Seahawks since he was drafted, right? I mean, Nick Harris is some dude that we brought in that's played other positions and right? Maybe my heart's blinded me here, but I'm looking to Olu to secure that spot. Plus, being a Michigan guy, you got to think that McDonald has a little bit of history with him and knows what he's all about.
Yeah, we have a couple guys like that. I think it would be a higher ceiling for Olu for sure. That would make me happy if it's him. I'm totally stumped. I don't know what's going to happen there with Nick Harris and Olu. Center, you really need some experience, but sometimes young guys are really good. So I'm stumped on that. Speaking of Michigan guys, Adam, we go to pick 151, just 3 picks before him. Last year, we had Mike Morris. He played part of one game and then ended up with shoulder surgery. So some of these are really, really tough to prognosticate about, almost as tough as picking how a rookie's going to do in a season. What do you think Big Mike is going to do this year, Adam?
Yeah, you can look at it as it's difficult to predict, right? Because you don't have a sample size to work from their rookie year, but also too, this makes it a little easier to predict. I mean, he played basically half a game. I think he could do a lot better than that this year. So to me, that's a jump. And not only that, I think of all the guys because of the relative low bar that was set last year with the injury.
Yeah.
Him being a Michigan guy, having familiarity with Mike McDonald, and the idea that I think the most impactful rookie this year is easily going to be Byron Murphy. I just think he's that kind of dude. You know, one of the, if not the best player in the draft this year defensively, the second best. And I think he's going to have a massive, massive impact. Bringing back Leo and then, Draymond being there, bringing Mike Moe in, who, is your 4th, 5th guy behind Reed and company and everybody else. Like, there's not going to be a ton of attention paid to him by opposing offenses, giving him the opportunity to have a year like Byron Young or Hoyt or any of the other dudes from the Rams last year when they feasted off of Aaron Donald, really setting the table for them. And I think that's what could happen for Mike Moe this year in having familiarity with the coach and the system and what they're going to do. I think he's the biggest jump of all the players this year.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense from where you started. You said so many cool things there. One thing I noticed with this exercise is we think it's hard to predict rookies. And then sophomores, that should be easy because we've already seen them. And yet we have a sample of Reek Woolen now last year, and we have a sample of Boye Mafe. And they both went from one guy didn't do a lot, kind of held it down, to he became awesome last year with Boye, and then Reek was awesome to a little bit disappointing last year. So predicting these sophomores can be tough, and especially you talk about a guy that just got to play a half. I mean, this is almost as tough as predicting the first year, but he has every reason to absolutely take a big jump. And so putting your chips in on him taking a big jump makes a lot of sense. But how about Cam Young? You had 18 tackles. You had 1 tackle for loss, only 1 quarterback hit in 200 snaps. He might have some tough time finding space this year. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he even makes a team following this year. I think this is a slump, even though he didn't do a heck of a lot last year. I mean, just the depth at the position is so much better than it was at this point last year. I mean, shoot, just the addition of Murphy and Hankins right there. Like, I think that really does just kind of solidify the idea, unless there's a big injury in camp or something like that, Cam Young is going to have a difficult time making the roster. But then again, we don't know where Mike McDonald likes to, hedge his bets when it comes to making the roster going into the season. Like, what position groups does he try to hold on to an extra dude or two, and which ones does he let run a little thinner? We're going to see. This will be our first experience with him doing that. And so I'm going to go slump, Phil. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, it's going to have a rough time getting some snaps, even if he makes the team. So I think that's the low-hanging fruit there. If we had to put it on slump and actually not feel bad for our team if it happened. I hate to say that, Cam, but if you're the guy that doesn't have his best year, that won't kill us because we have so many guys there that we're excited about. 108th pick last year was Anthony Bradford. He played 14 games and he played right guard. I've heard a lot of write-ups on him, kind of going both ways. People felt pretty decent about him. Some were kind of more picky against him. Here's what I saw when I watched him. He played decent. And for a rookie mid-round guard, they typically don't play awesome. So if you're expecting a rookie mid-round guard to go out there and just tear things up, that doesn't happen that often. So for him to play decent, I wasn't too disappointed. But Adam, do you feel like he's going to take a leap forward this year? Do you think he might slump? Where do you feel about Mr. Anthony Bradford?
This is my biggest stumped by a lot. And only because I honestly have no clue what Ryan Grubb's going to do. I
Yeah.
just don't. I see what he did in college. That was one thing. I hear what he talks about in press conferences as the Seahawks offensive coordinator, and it sounds like something very different. I don't know what we're going to expect. I don't know what he's going to do, whether he's going to be a little bit more run heavy or if he's going to kind of use all the receivers that he has on this team and really go to a more pass heavy scheme, which would be my guess. I mean, that's what his, track record shows throughout his career as a college coach. And everybody kind of says, well, it's the personnel he had. Well, shoot. I mean, look at the personnel he has going into this year. Gino's a heck of a quarterback. He's got 3 damn good receivers. Like, are you telling me that and Noah Fant, who I think is a good pass catcher as well, I have a hard time believing that he's not going to try to implement those players much like he did with that really talented group at the University of Washington. So with that said, looking at Anthony Bradford, a guy that I saw last year in the run game, mauler at times, just a big, massive dude. And if he got his hands on you, it was a problem. Whiffed a few times, had some good pancakes, little up and down, but overall in the run game, I would say decent. Like, same with you. In the pass game, though, man, just slow feet, man. And got just, ran around by a lot of interior defensive players. And with that said, I'm not sure how that fits with the way that Grubb is going to go throughout this season. If it's, try to keep the ball on the ground, use the passing game when you should, that sort of thing, then sure, I think Bradford fits and he could be a jump. If it's going to be, hey, we're going to throw the ball 40 to 50 times a game, and that's kind of the way we do it, boy, I have a hard time believing he may even be a starter. So I don't know how you feel about it, Phil, but just a giant freaking question mark. Boop.
Well, I think we're going to need him, so I hope he's good, because otherwise McClendon Curtis, they're talking him up, but I feel like Bradford is going to need to have a good season. So, I mean, if Bradford can step in there and take a step forward, this could really be have a good shot of being a good O-line, especially from what we're hearing about Abraham Lucas being healthy and doing stuff out there. So if Bradford can do the jump forward, that's going to be pretty exciting. If he can't, then we're counting on Tomlinson or McClendon Curtis, and I don't think the ceiling is very high with those options. That's just my personal take. We got to keep moving, so let's get into these top picks now from last year. 52 was Zach Charbonnet, 462 yards, 1 running touchdown, 4.3 yards per attempt. His receiving was 13.1 yards per game, but he did have an 82.5% catch percentage when he was thrown to. What do you think Zach's going to do? Is he going to jump forward this year, Adam?
He's a talented guy. I think he's a great backup running back. I want to say jump with all my heart, but I don't think he's going to get the touches. I just don't think that they're there in this scheme for him. I'd be surprised if you see a heck of a lot more Charbonnet this year than you did last year. And just for that one reason alone, man, it's a slump for me. Nothing that he's done wrong or if the fact that he has a lack of talent or anything like that. It's just where I see the scheme going. I feel like it's a slump.
Okay. I think he'll be about the same. I mean, I wasn't awesome by him last year. I wasn't wowed by him. I was fine with him, and I think he'll probably be fine. I think he'll always be fine. And so he'll be needed. There'll be times he'll be needed. K9's going to need a breather. K9 probably isn't playing 17 games. If he does, that's amazing. But Zach's going to be needed, and we'll be glad that we had him in those moments. Number 37 was Derick Hall last year. He did get 38 tackles combined, if you include his helps, 3 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits, but he did get the goose egg in the sack number. So will Derick Hall pull a Boye Mafe for us, Adam, and take a jump, or did you not see enough to be convinced?
Yeah, interesting. He's probably the guy out of this last year's group, especially the top picks, that we talk about the least as a fan base or, through the media, just across the board. Nobody's talking about Derick Hall. I haven't heard the coaching staff say jack about him this entire offseason. I haven't heard anything about where Derick Hall's going and how he's going to do. Now, with that said, could that be bad? Sure. Could it be good? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up Boye when you brought up his name, and I'm going to try to learn from last year's mistakes, Phil. Boye did decent against the run, went out there, acquitted himself well, and then made a big jump the next year. let's give that same trajectory to Derick Hall here, especially with the new defensive genius coming in with Mike McConnell or McDonald. And at that point, let's see what he does with the outside linebacker. I mean, McDonald's a linebacker specialist, right? So I think he could have a jump here. So let's go with jump.
Awesome. And that'd be super common for that position, which we said on last year's show. It's very common for a guy to come in outside linebacker and just kind of find his feet. And then next year have that confidence to really rip through and make some difference. He will have Uchenna to deal with in front of him, Boye in front of him, and then Darrell Taylor on passing downs. I know he's your favorite, Adam. But
oh yeah,
but I hope Derick Hall does something. I hope he shows me more. I saw a little more from Boye that I was confident in last year, to be honest, than I've seen from Derick. But we heard so many great things about Derick coming into the season. Let's hope you're right and we get a jump. Let's go to the top 2 picks we had. We go with JSN, our number 20th pick in the draft. 4 touchdowns. 2 of those were game winners, though. 628 yards, 67.7 catch percentage. Seemed like Waldron had a little difficulty figuring out how to use him by a lot of people's take, including me. Do you think he's going to have a jump, a slump, or are you still stumped about JSN, Adam?
I guess it just depends on the type of passing attack that Grubb is going to implement this year. And because my own personal criteria for jump here would just to be more impactful from week 1 all the way to the end. It seemed like, obviously had the broken wrist coming in and all that and being a rookie. It took him a while to kind of find his groove. And unfortunately, the groove that Waldron seemed to try to pigeonhole him into was bubbles, bubbles, bubbles. And I just don't think that's his skill set. Like, he's not exactly a jitterbug guy. I mean, he's very smooth and he gets in and out of his breaks. I just don't think that that's going to be where he's going to find his success long-term in the league. So hopefully we're not running a bunch of freaking bubbles, and hopefully they're not all to JSN. If it's not that, and we're pushing the ball down the field a little bit more, I do believe we're going to throw the ball more. I think that makes it more likely than not by a fair amount. This is going to be a jump about any way you slice it. So I'm optimistic and bullish on JSN, even though anybody who's listened to this podcast for a long time knows how I feel about the pick at the time, all that stuff, and the way that this shapes an offense, having him be a featured player, especially as your number 3. It's not my cup of tea, but if that's what we're doing, I think it's going to be good for his individual deal. So jump for me, Phil. I don't know if you feel the same or if you got a different trajectory here for the great JSN.
So many things to say, but obviously Adam's giving fantasy advice. Draft JSN. He's going to score you some points this year. There's so many questions when it comes to Jaxon Smith-Njigba for the team. We have Grubb. Is he going to know how to use him? We have Tyler. Where is he at? Is he going to be a third down specialist, or is he going to stay on the field every time that there's 2 receivers out there, or is he going to share that with JSN? I mean, I'm not sure what their plans are on how they're going to utilize the 2 guys. I'm glad we have him. We needed another receiver, especially where Tyler and DK are getting with their contracts. DK, I hope we find a way to always keep him, but just having JSN there, I think gives us some leverage. I know Devin's the best player out of the draft. There's no doubt about that. But the one with the most questions on how things might go and most interesting could be JSN, just for the fact that there's so many ways this can go. But I think there are more outcomes that result in him having an up year. I think there are more possibilities where it could go that way. And so if I was going to guess, I would go with jump, which leads us to the aforementioned awesome, maybe even best player on our defense last year, Devin Witherspoon. I don't know how you can jump from the stars, but what do you expect for Devin Witherspoon for his sophomore year? Do you think there's more altitude for him to jump into?
I do, and only because of the way that McDonald talks about guys being multiple and getting them moved around the field. You saw what he did with Kyle Hamilton last year in Baltimore. And while he's a safety, and we're talking about a corner here in Witherspoon, the idea being that he looks at Witherspoon and is like, that dude has instincts. That dude's a football player, and he brings the juice each and every play. That's a guy I can move around the defense and really cause confusion for the opponent. So I think that I think that it's going to be a jump, but statistically speaking, I think that's going to be difficult, just because numbers at the cornerback position are so volatile. Like you can be awesome and like your numbers can look totally different, but I think overall his impact was pretty large last year. Really, when you think about it, I think his impact will be even a bit more, especially as he takes the next step as a vocal leader on the team, which he seemed to have embraced with both arms. That's for sure. So, look, Devin Witherspoon. I don't know, Phil. Is he a future first ballot Hall of Famer or just future Hall of Famer? How do you feel about it?
Well, I didn't even put numbers down for Devin Witherspoon because he's not a
Yeah.
number. To me, his position's not a numbers guy. I mean, there's
Yeah.
numbers to be had at that position, but the impact that he has is so far beyond the numbers. The numbers are almost insulting to mention when the kind of player he is. And it's really sad when you see what our defense did last year in comparison to how awesome he truly was out there. The front seven was just not functioning properly. And I don't know, it was just personnel, play call, combination of all that. They just weren't functioning as a solid front seven. And yet behind that, Devin was doing some amazing things. And so you don't quantify a player like him with numbers. It's just a matter of, because he's more talented than Kyle Hamilton. But does McDonald unlock something extra that now we are really tilting the field, like where defense is an advantage for us again, where the crowd is getting behind the defense again with like, what's Devin going to do on the next play expectancy over and over? I think there's a chance we'll feel that. We felt that a little bit last year, but I think there's a chance that could move forward. Now that's probably crazy fan in me of over expecting awesomeness from a guy that's just fun to watch, but it's possible. I mean, it's possible that we can truly see some of the greatness glimmer from him this year. So I wouldn't go against saying a jump, even though he had a great rookie year. And that's probably very dangerous to say. There's a lot of room for us to be disappointed in how things go when you consider how great he played. I just don't think it's in his character to drop back. I don't see anything in his eyes or anything that emanates from his heart would make me think he could take a step back.
And I didn't see any part of his game last year either that I was like, ooh, that's a little concerning going forward. Like the league might be able to adapt and improvise to that and make life tough on him. I didn't see any of that at all. And I am so high on Coach Mike McDonald and what he could do for this defense. And, because of that, Phil, I think you're 100% right, man. And obviously one of the more exciting players to look at going into this next year. An exciting exercise. I was glad to do this again with you this year, Phil. We'll make this an annual thing. And, to all of you watching, man, if you got a little bit of value out of this, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. I know it's annoying, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal to us, and we appreciate it a ton. And Phil, with that,
there's only one thing left to say, Adam.
go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Comment for us. Tell us what you think.